The manga begins with Asahi playing a video game and complaining about the bad graphics. He mutters that he'll check it more carefully later. When he reaches home and grabs the doorknob, the door opens before he can unlock it. He pauses for a moment, then steps inside. A sharp voice greets him and welcomes Asahi back. He replies that he's home and asks what she's doing. Hinako answers in a cute tone, saying she's doing yoga. She suddenly notices the ice cream he brought and gets excited. Asahi asks if she wants some and tells her to choose any flavor she likes. She happily shouts that she wants the soda flavored. As Asahi walks away, he glances back at Hinako, who is biting into her ice cream and looking up at him. He casually tells her she should dress more properly since it's not her house. Shocked, she asks why he's bringing it up now when she always dresses like this. Laughing, he says he's been telling her the same thing since the first day. Hinako grabs his arm, pulls him closer, and wraps her arms around his neck with a mischievous smile. Asahi sighs in frustration, thinking about his older sister, Tsuko. She always had high standards for beauty. She loved neat and beautiful things, and her sense of style had been impressive since childhood. When Tsuko entered middle school, she introduced Asahi to her friend Hinako. He still remembers that moment clearly. He was struck by Hinako's natural beauty, long curly eyelashes, large pupils that didn't need contact lenses, a small nose, and slightly thick but well-groomed eyebrows. She truly looked like someone sculpted by the gods. Asahi sighs again, realizing that he shares the same taste in beauty as his sister Tsuko. Hinako is still clinging to his neck, so he gently zips her jacket up a little and asks what she's trying to do. Just as he's about to walk away, she grabs his shirt again and begs him to play Mario Kart with her. He hesitates, saying he has plans soon, but she pleads for just 2 hours. In the end, he gives in, and they start playing together. After a long gaming session, Asahi sighs when he realizes how late it's gotten and how hungry he is. He heads to the kitchen to make something to eat, with Hinako following closely behind, curious about what he'll cook. He suggests udon, but jokingly asks if they can pretend it was her choice so Tsuko won't complain later. At that moment, Hinako receives a text from Tsuko, saying she'll be eating out tonight. Asahi adds eggplant to the chilled udon, knowing his sister hates it. Hinako admires the dish and says it looks delicious. Asahi mentions how busy Tsuko is because of college and compares it to Hinako's more relaxed life in liberal arts. He guesses that Tsuko, who studies science, has it much harder. While eating, Asahi remembers how Tsuko originally lived alone after starting college. But once Hinako entered the same college, she began visiting often. Now, Asahi spends more time with Hinako than with his own sister. He glances at her and notices that even her side profile looks perfect. He points out that she's chewing on her hair and teases her about it. Surprised, Hinako looks at him. He asks if she wants him to tie her hair. She hands him a hair tie, and although hesitant, he ties her hair for her. Their closeness makes him flustered, and he sighs in relief when he's finished. Hinako thanks him and jokingly says he'd make a great husband. While washing the dishes, Asahi, still embarrassed from being so close to her, thinks to himself. He wonders what normal boy wouldn't fall for Hinako when she smiles at them so innocently. He scolds himself and tries to shake the thought away. Just then, Hinako appears behind him and says she's going to take a shower. He nods and gestures for her to go ahead. His calm reaction seems to disappoint her. She leans in closer, peeks over his shoulder playfully, and warns him not to snoop around. With a teasing smile, she runs off, leaving Asahi stunned. He forcefully drops a dish into the sink and mutters about how overwhelming everything feels. Sitting down on the floor to calm himself, he enters a meditative state, strictly reminding himself not to be fooled by the situation, no matter how tempting it is. He remembers how Hinako used to cling to him back in middle school, always saying they were just like siblings. Thinking about it now, he believes that if she treats him like a younger brother, she could never see him romantically, especially when she even made him do things like wash her underwear. And yet, she was his first crush. What a tragic situation. Later, when Asahi steps outside, he sees Hinako approaching with excitement. She has changed out of her loungewear. Asahi notices the difference right away and quietly comments in his mind about how good she looks. Hinako asks him if she looks cute. Asahi responds with exaggerated praise, saying her fashion sense is amazing and jokingly gives her a score of 100 million points. Later that week, Asahi asks Hinako if she's just returned from her part-time job. She confirms it and then asks about his recent exams. He says they were average. Hinako congratulates him playfully, then hugs him from behind and asks him to help her study next time. Confused, Asahi asks why she needs help when her grades are already good. Hinako quickly denies it, saying she barely managed because of Tsuko's intense tutoring. Tsuko wanted them to attend the same college, so she pushed Hinako very hard. Hinako explains it took months just to raise her grades to average, and she admits she's already forgotten most of what she studied. Asahi casually comments that Tsuko's strict teaching sounds terrifying. Hinako visibly shudders and begs him not to remind her of those memories. While sitting inside the house, Hinako talks about how cute the black-haired member of a music group is and mentions their new album's music video. She knows Asahi and Tsuko both like them. Feeling a bit flustered, Asahi calls out to her and asks if she's getting too close. Hinako, not realizing anything, asks if she is and casually offers him some chips. Asahi suddenly refuses, stands up and tries to leave. Hinako grabs his shirt to stop him. After hesitating, he agrees to stay, struggling internally to control his emotion. He feels like he's being treated like a pet dog. Hinako then mentions that Tsuko is eating out again. Asahi immediately uses this as an excuse to leave, saying he wants to cook something. Hinako lets him go and he escapes to the kitchen, occasionally glancing back at her in silence. After cooking, Asahi brings a tray with hamburger steak to Hinako. She happily praises it as they sit down to eat. She comments that it's spicy but delicious. Asahi asks if she had a hard day. Hinako is surprised and asks if her mood was that obvious. He reassures her that he just sensed something was off. Hinako tries to brush it off, saying she's fine, though she feels embarrassed for showing her emotions. Asahi notices her sadness and tries to comfort her, telling her he admires her confidence. Hinako admits that her appearance often causes misunderstandings and makes it hard for her to get along with other girls. Feeling guilty for talking too much, she opens up about her insecurities. Seeing her upset, Asahi gently takes her hand and says that beauty can be a kind of justice. Hinako is surprised. Asahi continues, saying he understands how hard things can be for her and promises to stand up for her when she can't do it herself. He recalls an incident from her third year when someone at cram school accused her of staring at another girl's boyfriend. After that, Asahi admits he went to a shrine and prayed for the accuser to fail her exams and for the boyfriend to stub his pinky toe. He laughs awkwardly, unsure if his prayers worked. Touched by his words, Hinako suddenly hugs him. Asahi thinks again about how he feels like a pet dog to her. Then, without warning, Hinako kisses his cheek. Asahi panics and pushes her away, worried she went too far. Hinako turns red, clearly affected. Trying to hide her embarrassment, she loudly claims it was just a moment of happiness and meant nothing. Feeling awkward, Asahi nods and quickly changes the topic, mentioning that he has strawberries. Still flustered, Hinako scolds him, asking why he isn't more embarrassed and calling him an idiot. Their moment is interrupted when Tsuko comes home. Clearly upset, she demands to know what Asahi did to her friend. Caught off guard, Asahi denies doing anything wrong, unsure how to explain himself. Later, Asahi returns home and notices a pamphlet and Tsuko's mail by the door. As he unlocks and opens it, he's surprised to see Hinako standing there, smiling warmly and welcoming him back. He admires her face and tells her he's home. Hinako asks if she surprised him, saying she heard him unlocking the door. She takes a book from his hand and realizes it's the one she ordered, happily thanking him. Asahi suddenly becomes serious and reminds her again that she should dress more appropriately. Hinako looks at him innocently and says she is dressed properly, showing him her outfit. Asahi struggles to control his emotions, especially when he notices her exposed thighs. Hinako steps closer and shyly asks if he wants to see what's underneath, lifting her hoodie slightly before stopping. Asahi hurriedly tells her to stop. She continues just enough to reveal that she's wearing shorts, then laughs at how flustered he looks and teases him for blushing. Looking at her innocent smile, Asahi reflects on how this friend of his sister keeps stirring his feelings. He remembers how 2 years ago she only saw him as a younger brother. Frustrated, he admits to himself that he doesn't understand his feelings anymore. Breaking his thoughts, Hinako cheerfully offers him some hot chocolate. Asahi simply nods. The scene shifts to Asahi sitting in front of his laptop, focused on his work. Hinako walks over and asks if he's studying. Asahi replies that he is and explains that he has a report due soon. Hinako suggests that they watch TV together and offers to move her things out of the way. Asahi politely declines, saying that he plans to study in his room soon. Hinako looks surprised by his seriousness and jokes that he really is Tsuko's brother, since he's so hardworking. She then smiles and says she'll read quietly so she doesn't disturb him, adding that he can study with her if he wants. Asahi nods and agrees. He sits down and starts studying while Hinako relaxes on the couch, fully focused on her book. After a while, Asahi glances at her and thinks about how quiet she is. Lost in her reading, Hinako doesn't notice him looking. A few moments later, she suddenly looks up and asks if something is wrong. Asahi panics slightly and says it's nothing, then casually comments that she really likes reading. Hinako nods and explains that she finds it easier to read at home or here, but has trouble concentrating on campus. Surprised, Asahi asks why, pointing out that she should have plenty of free time between lectures. Hinako explains that people often tease her for reading, saying it doesn't suit her image. She recalls comments about how she looks out of place, or like she's trying to stand out. She sighs and admits it's tiring to deal with those remarks, saying maybe reading just isn't for her, and that she feels foolish. Asahi immediately tells her that isn't true. Inside his mind, Asahi thinks about how much he hates assigned reading, and how he's never even been to a public library. He remembers once seeing Hinako reading and feeling strangely moved by it. She looked beautiful, completely absorbed in her book, and unaware of everything around her. Looking back, he realizes that was the first time he truly admired her. Hinako asks when that happened. Asahi excitedly explains that he admired her because all he ever reads is manga, and he thought it was impressive that she enjoyed books enough to visit a library. Hinako calmly replies that she reads simply because she likes it, not because she wants admiration. Asahi insists that it is admirable. He says Hinako is too kind, and that it's rude for people to say reading doesn't suit someone. Anyone would feel hurt by that. He praises her for trying to change herself instead of getting angry, which he finds admirable. Hinako laughs softly and tells him he's being too serious and too kind. She explains she only wanted to avoid people making comments about her. Asahi calmly says that he admires how much she enjoys reading, and that he genuinely likes that side of her. Ignoring her shocked expression, he asks what she's reading. Hinako nervously answers that it's classical Japanese literature. Asahi, now close to her, takes the book and comments that she's really dedicated, admitting he struggles with old literature. Hinako's face turns red and she covers it with her hands, telling herself that he didn't mean anything. Noticing her strange reaction, Asahi asks what's wrong. Hinako suddenly yells at him to go back to studying. Shocked, Asahi freezes. After calming down, Hinako quietly says that once someone told her she looked like she enjoyed reading. Asahi asks if it was Tsuko. Hinako explains it happened in their second year of middle school, when they were in the same class. She remembers girls whispering and laughing, and one person telling her she seemed to enjoy reading. She admits her heart skipped a beat back then. Suddenly, Tsuko appears behind them and asks what they're talking about. Hinako giggles and says they were talking about how cool a certain idol is. Tsuko gives her a suspicious look, but thanks her anyway. Meanwhile, Asahi panics internally, wondering if he said something he shouldn't have, and if he accidentally revealed his feelings. At school, Asahi is surrounded by female classmates, excitedly talking about a new music video from a popular idol group. They gush about how amazing it is and how they could watch it forever. Asahi agrees and mentions how impressive one member's visuals are. A boy enters the classroom looking for Asahi to return his notes. Seeing him surrounded by girls, the boy jokes that Asahi must have nerves of steel. Used to it, he sits down and thanks Asahi. One girl immediately tells him to leave, making him complain about why Asahi is allowed to stay. She replies that Asahi is basically like one of them. Asahi calmly reminds everyone that he is in fact a guy. Another girl calls Asahi over to talk about club activities tomorrow. As he walks away, one boy comments on how knowledgeable Asahi is about idols and trends, even though he also has an older sister. He admits that while he loves his sister's cooking, he knows nothing about trends. Another friend joins in, and the first boy says that if he knew as much as Asahi, he'd be popular too. A girl overhears and snaps that the reason Asahi can talk to them is because he has no hidden motives. One boy shouts that someone like Asahi couldn't possibly exist in a high school. The girls recognize the boy as Sai from their class and mention a famous incident from their first year, making Asahi embarrassed. Sai's friend suggests they head to their club, and the scene changes. The school cultural festival is bustling with activity. A girl asks if Asahi is around, and another points him out. Asahi turns and freezes when he sees Tsuko and Hinako waving at him, smiling and saying they came to say hi. Soon, someone jokingly calls him the guy with flowers in both hands, and a photo of him standing with Tsuko and Hinako spreads among the girls. Seeing the picture, Sai comments on how pretty Asahi's sister is, and questions what that has to do with hidden intentions. Another boy explains that the two girls are Asahi's sister and her friend, hinting at something else. Asahi arrives and asks what they're talking about. Sai answers that they're discussing who Asahi likes, which makes him panic. They tease him about his one-sided crush on his sister's friend since middle school. Shocked, Asahi demands to know who told them. Sai laughs and asks if Asahi really likes pretty girls, teasing him about what he likes most, her face or something else. Embarrassed, Asahi admits he thinks her face is beautiful. This only makes things worse as he awkwardly starts praising her eyes, her natural look, and everything else. spiraling into a flustered rant. Seeing their reactions, Asahi hurriedly explains that his feelings aren't just about her looks. His friends glance toward Hinako and then back at him, teasing him even more. Suddenly, Asahi spots someone outside the window. His face lights up, and before anyone can react, he runs off, leaving his friends stunned. Outside, Hinako stands with her friends, chatting about old school memories. Feeling embarrassed, Hinako suggests leaving, but one friend laughs and says they just arrived, teasing her about wanting to check out a co-ed school. Embarrassed, Hinako quickly denies ever saying anything like that. However, her friend remembers hearing that Hinako once liked someone but didn't want to date because she attended an all-girls school. Laughing, her friend comments on how complicated high school relationships are and says she doesn't really understand teenagers these days. Hinako tries to brush the topic aside, but her sudden serious tone surprises her friend. Realizing this, Hinako quickly apologizes and says she didn't mean to sound upset. Her thoughts drift back to Asahi, his expressions, his words, and all the moments they've spent together. Without realizing it, she starts telling her friend about him, her face flushed with emotion. Her friend listens in surprise and says it sounds both sweet and a little painful. Hinako explains that her feelings for Asahi aren't just a simple crush. What really bothers her is how calm Asahi always is, even during awkward moments. She starts wondering if Asahi, who goes to a co-ed school and is always around girls, is completely unaware of how she feels. Her friend says that just because he goes to a mixed school doesn't mean he's careless or insensitive. She thinks that maybe Asahi simply sees things differently, especially since he's Tsuko's little brother. Before her friend can finish, Hinako cuts in, defending Asahi. Her friend stands up and firmly says that Asahi probably doesn't see Hinako romantically at all, and tells her to stop overthinking things. Suddenly, her friend declares that she needs to see things for herself and starts walking off. Hinako grabs her arm, asking what she really thinks, but her friend refuses to say anything more. Left behind, Hinako feels frustrated and unsure. Nearby students glance at them, whispering and wondering if they're sisters or college students. Just then, Asahi appears and calls Hinako's name. She looks at him, momentarily stunned. Her friend almost blurts something out about Hinako's feelings, but Hinako quickly covers her mouth. Nervously, Hinako explains that her friend was just curious about Tsuko's little brother. Asahi calmly nods and thanks her friend for her interest. Hinako asks if Asahi is heading home and apologizes for interrupting him. He answers yes, but before he can say anything else, his friends rush in and pull him away. They excitedly comment on Hinako and her friend, even asking if they can take photos, clearly impressed. Hinako's friend teases Asahi about how popular he is. Asahi tries to explain why he can't just share contact information, but it doesn't really help. Then Hinako calls out Asahi's name. He freezes. She says they're heading home. Asahi suddenly shouts for them to wait, shocking his friends, and runs toward her. He accidentally bumps into Hinako's friend, who struggles to hold back her laughter. From a classroom window, Asahi's friends watch him leave with Hinako. One of the girls nods knowingly and comments that this explains why Asahi can talk to girls so easily. Asahi walks beside Hinako, deep in thought. Hinako, meanwhile, feels embarrassed about earlier. Asahi wonders if her reaction was jealousy and replays everything in his mind. He remembers how she called him by his first name and wonders if he imagined it. Later, while watching TV, Hinako mentions wanting to visit an aquarium someday. To see jellyfish and dolphins. Asahi casually says she should go. Hinako turns and asks if he would go with her. Asahi freezes, wondering if this is a date. They've never gone out alone before. He agrees immediately, surprising Hinako. She thinks he might not see it as a date, but she doesn't mind. Asahi quietly feels excited, but then panics, realizing he doesn't have any proper clothes. Hinako says he can wear anything, but Asahi insists he only has his school uniform and casual clothes. Hinako admits she's never seen him wear anything else. Curious, she asks him to show her. He changes into an outfit, but Hinako immediately decides they need to go shopping. Shocked, Asahi asks if his clothes are really that bad. Hinako examines him carefully and says they're not awful, but they don't fit him anymore. Asahi explains Tsuko bought them last year. Hinako points out that he's grown since then, laughing at how short the sleeves look. Asahi laughs too. Hinako kneels down and starts taking his measurements, saying it'll make shopping easier. Flustered, Asahi insists he can do it himself, but Hinako says it won't be accurate. As she measures him, his heart races. Finished, Hinako says she'll send him the sizes later. Asahi sits on the floor, sighing in relief that it's over. Hinako looks at him quietly, slightly blushing as she notices how much more solid he looks than she expected. Asahi stands up and admits he still knows nothing about fashion. He asks Hinako to choose clothes for him. She happily agrees. Asahi goes to make dinner while Hinako relaxes on the couch, listening to music. Her heart still racing, she scrolls on her phone, briefly imagining matching outfits before calming herself down. Suddenly, Tsuko appears behind her, teasing her playfully. Startled, Hinako jumps. Asahi shouts from the kitchen, shocked that his sister is home. Tsuko replies calmly that she's been there for a while and was napping. Tsuko moves closer, casually commenting that Hinako might have changed a bit. Hinako nervously asks if she really thinks so. Tsuko offers to check properly. Feeling awkward, Hinako agrees. From the kitchen, Asahi peeks over, only to be immediately scolded by Tsuko, who tells him to stop staring and mind his own business. Annoyed, Asahi snaps back and asks why she's doing it in the living room, of all places. A few days later, Asahi stands fully dressed in his new outfit and shoes. He looks surprisingly handsome. For the first time, he's even wearing contact lenses. Trying not to make a sound, he carefully sneaks toward the door, thinking it's the perfect chance since his sister is asleep. Suddenly, Tsuko's voice stops him cold. She's standing in her bedroom doorway, asking where he's going. Sweat starts pouring down Asahi's face as he stammers that he's just heading out with a friend. Tsuko smiles in a strange knowing way that completely terrifies. Meanwhile, Hinako, who arrived early because she was too excited, is approached by a group of boys. They tease her, saying she's cute and asking if she wants to hang out. One of them reaches out, suggesting she join them with her friend. Nervous, Hinako tells them to leave her alone. Just then, Tsuko appears behind the boys, placing her hands firmly on their shoulders and warning them not to touch Hinako with their filthy hands. Hinako's face lights up when she sees Tsuko. The boys mutter that it makes sense they're friends, since both of them are attractive. Tsuko gestures for Hinako to leave, and she quickly walks away. The boys call out again, asking Tsuko to come too. Tsuko coldly replies that they're in the way of Hinako's date. Shocked, the boys back off. Tsuko advises Hinako to look more uninterested if she wants to avoid getting bothered so easily. At that moment, Asahi arrives and freezes when he sees Tsuko there. Feeling strangely proud, he loudly declares that Hinako is on a date with him. The people nearby stare, surprised by his confidence. Soon Asahi and Hinako enter the aquarium together. They stand awkwardly side by side. Hinako glances at him and says he looks great. Asahi, seeking reassurance, says it must be thanks to her fashion sense. Hinako giggles and thanks him, and the two fall into embarrassed silence. Asahi looks at Hinako's face and wonders why she invited him when she has so many friends. He grips his bag strap tightly, thinking it might be because they spend so much time together at home. Or maybe there's another reason. Suddenly, Tsuko appears behind them and asks why Asahi looks so tense. Annoyed, he steps away while Hinako politely thanks Tsuko for the tickets. Tsuko grimly asks why Hinako invited Asahi but not her. Hinako quickly explains that she thought Asahi had already invited her and assumed Tsuko was busy with assignments. Tsuko replies that she could always make time for Hinako. Still lost in his thoughts, Asahi barely reacts as Hinako suddenly urges them to move on. Tsuko tells Asahi not to get any strange ideas and to behave properly. He quickly agrees. Inside the aquarium, Hinako excitedly looks around while Tsuko stays serious. Asahi ends up walking between them, feeling awkward as they both forget about him and focus on the exhibits. From behind, he watches them and thinks they really stand out together. Asahi starts taking photos of Hinako, who keeps telling him how to angle the camera properly. Later, they eat together and watch the dolphin show. Hinako is thrilled, while Asahi sits quietly between the two. They stop by the gift shop filled with dolphin and sea creature plushies. Hinako is clearly delighted while Asahi looks around, thinking about buying souvenirs for his parents and classmates. He briefly worries about how to explain who he went with, then decides it doesn't matter. After leaving the aquarium, Hinako laughs and says she had a great time. Asahi asks if she wants to eat at his place or go home. Hinako decides to head home. Tsuko steps aside to take a phone call, leaving Asahi and Hinako alone. Hinako quietly asks Asahi for his hand. She places a small dolphin keychain in it and tells him to keep it. Shocked, Asahi pulls out a similar keychain and admits he bought one for her too. Hinako excitedly notices how similar they are and laughs at the coincidence. Asahi blushes and agrees. With a finger to her lips, Hinako suggests keeping it a secret from Tsuko. Asahi nods, also blushing, making Hinako giggle. Tsuko suddenly interrupts, handing Asahi a bag and telling him to take it home. He asks if she's not coming, and Tsuko replies that something came up. Just then, a girl rushes over, calling Tsuko's name and hugging her from behind. Tsuko calls the girl Utsugi. Utsugi clings to her, thanking her for coming. Tsuko responds casually, then says goodbye to Asahi and Hinako before leaving with Utsugi. The two watch them go, confused. Asahi asks Hinako if a diner is okay for their next stop. Still distracted, Hinako nods without really listening. Asahi notices and tries to get her attention. Hinako glares in the direction Tsuko left, quietly wondering who that girl is. Hinako explains that Utsugi is a student from their school who joined the drama club. Tsuko tutors her, and she plans to apply to the same science program. Asahi says she's just another student, but Hinako gets frustrated, pointing out how much time Tsuko spends with her. They quietly follow Tsuko and Utsugi, wearing odd disguises to avoid being noticed. Hinako glares, saying she'll never forgive Utsugi if she ever hurts Tsuko. Asahi, confused, wonders why he's even part of this. Hinako suddenly grabs Asahi's hand, startling him, and tells him to move. He agrees instantly. They follow Tsuko and Utsugi into a cinema and buy tickets for the same movie. Inside the theater, Utsugi sits beside Tsuko, fully absorbed in the film. Meanwhile, Hinako and Asahi sit quietly behind Tsuko and Utsugi, trying not to be noticed. Hinako is fully focused on the movie. When it ends, she is sobbing because of the sad ending. Seeing her cry, Asahi gently asks if she wants his handkerchief. She accepts it, thanking him softly while mumbling about how emotional the movie was. After the movie, they continue to follow Tsuko and Utsugi from a distance. Wanting to distract Hinako, Asahi calls her name and points ahead, whispering that Tsuko and Utsugi are heading into the arcade. Hinako freezes for a moment, then glares at them in anger. Inside the arcade, Asahi looks around curiously. Suddenly, Hinako nudges his shoulder, then suddenly slams him against the wall, pinning him there as she stares into his confused face. She grins mischievously and grabs his shoulder. Spotting a photo booth nearby, she jumps onto his shoulders and starts posing excitedly. One pose follows another as the camera flashes. Hinako laughs happily while checking the photos, already deciding to use one as her phone background. Meanwhile, Asahi is completely worn out, wheezing from carrying her the whole time. Later, they sit in a restaurant, once again watching Tsuko and Utsugi from afar. Hinako notices Asahi's plate and gestures for him to feed her a bite. After eating, they leave and continue following Tsuko, but this time they get caught. Tsuko suddenly turns around and glares at them, clearly annoyed. Both Hinako and Asahi freeze in shock. Hinako, more focused on Utsugi, quickly asks where she went. Tsuko explains that she already sent Utsugi home and then demands to know what they think they are doing. Asahi nervously tries to step back, wanting nothing to do with the confrontation. Hinako, feeling insecure, finally admits the truth. She says she thought Tsuko was drifting away from her and believed Tsuko only liked attractive people like Utsugi. She insists that she should be Tsuko's number one. Surprised, Tsuko calmly explains that Utsugi is her professor's daughter and that she was only tutoring her to help her improve. She adds that she even told Utsugi that hanging out casually wasn't appropriate. Tsuko then pinches Hinako's cheeks and reminds her that a pretty face doesn't mean someone is a good person. She admits that while she likes refined and beautiful things, she truly enjoys being with Hinako because she likes her for who she is. Completely flustered, Hinako suddenly hugs Tsuko and blurts out that she loves her. Watching all of this, Asahi can only wonder what kind of situation he has gotten himself into. Suddenly, someone grabs Asahi's shirt and shoves him aside. It's Utsugi, who apparently didn't go home after all. She angrily demands to know who Hinako is. Panicking, Asahi explains that Hinako has been Tsuko's friend since middle school. Utsugi is surprised, commenting that middle school was a long time ago, but she firmly states that she won't give up. She mentions a warning Tsuko gave her, then suddenly asks Asahi for his phone number. Before he can react, she saves it and adds him on her social account. She pokes his nose and tells him firmly that he is going to help her, whether he likes it or not. Still shaken, Asahi tries to quietly slip away. However, Hinako notices and calls out to him, asking where he thinks he's going. He freezes and awkwardly explains what just happened with Utsugi. This shocks both Hinako and Tsuko, especially when Asahi admits that Utsugi added him online. Hinako explodes in anger, yelling at him in frustration. Tsuko sighs, commenting that her little brother really never learns. The scene shifts to Asahi cooking, preparing for Hinako's visit at 7 p.m. Meanwhile, Hinako walks alone, thinking about how she finally memorized all the names and faces of MAAS, Asahi's favorite K-pop group. Excited, she announces her arrival as she enters the house, but it's unusually quiet. She wonders if Asahi is studying in his room and feels a little disappointed that he didn't greet her. As she searches the house, she opens a door, and something suddenly pops right in front of her face. Asahi jumps out and wishes her a happy birthday. Still shocked, she listens as he teases her for turning 20 and explains that since Tsuko was busy, he decided to celebrate early since she was coming over anyway. Hinako stares at him in disbelief while he laughs, reminding her that it's her special day. Out of habit, she suddenly tries to hug him, but Asahi dodges easily. He's learned to expect it by now. When she sees the table filled with food, Hinako gasps in excitement, praising all the effort he put in. Asahi smiles and tells her to eat as much as she wants. She comments on how hard he must have worked, and Asahi admits he wasn't sure what to cook, so he asked his friends for ideas. Since he couldn't choose just one, he ended up making a bit of everything. Hearing that, Hinako casually asks about the girls in his club, wondering if there's someone he likes. Caught off guard, Asahi quickly denies it, saying there is no one like that. Hinako doesn't give up and starts talking about his time in the basketball club during middle school. She asks if there might be someone he likes now, maybe from the cooking club. Asahi hesitates, feeling flustered by the question. Hinako points out that there must be a reason he joined the cooking club, especially since it has so many girls. Her sharp stare forces him to explain. He admits that he joined because he wanted to cook better meals, especially since she often eats with them. Hinako freezes in shock. Realizing what he just said, Asahi quickly changes the subject, pretending he forgot something in the kitchen and rushing away. Still flustered, Hinako complains loudly about how unfair it is for him to dodge the topic like that. When Asahi comes back and asks what she meant, she happily replies that the food was delicious. With a sigh, she admits she ate too much. As she relaxes on the couch, Asahi hands her a cup of coffee. She takes it gratefully and says it's pure happiness. After sitting quietly for a moment, Asahi glances at her, then calls her name. He hands her a small gift box and explains that he bought it himself, since Tsuko will give her another present next week. Hinako's eyes sparkle as she asks if she can open it. Asahi nods and she quickly unwraps the box. Inside is a pair of chopsticks. Asahi explains that he thought it would be nice for her to have her own pair, instead of always using disposable ones or borrowing Tsuko's. He worries aloud that it's not a fancy gift, and regrets not giving it to her earlier, so she could have used them at dinner. Hinako is deeply touched. She thanks him sincerely, holding the chopsticks carefully. Suddenly, a bright flash of lightning fills the room, followed by a loud clap of thunder. Startled, Hinako wonders if there's supposed to be a storm and suggests checking the news. Looking at the weather, she wonders if she should try to go home. Asahi suggests that she stay over instead. She agrees, saying it's probably safer. After she takes a shower, she returns, and Asahi tells her that the trains have stopped and Tsuko won't be able to come home in this weather. Hinako casually says Tsuko will probably stay at a hotel. Then she smiles sweetly and points out that it looks like they'll be home alone tonight. Asahi freezes for a moment, then quietly excuses himself to take a shower. Sitting in the bath, Asahi thinks about how strange the situation feels. Being alone with Hinako like this is rare. Usually she only stays over when Tsuko is home, and after dinner he normally retreats to his room. Spending time together late at night like this feels unfamiliar. When he returns from the shower, he finds Hinako sitting on the couch, still holding the chopsticks. She smiles and greets him. He asks if she likes them, and she replies that it's the first time she's ever had her own pair. She explains that growing up, they used whatever cutlery they had at home, often using disposable ones. Her mother wasn't great at cooking, so they ordered takeout a lot. Their parents cared for each other, but they were always busy with work, and the family rarely ate together. Hinako says she didn't feel lonely, but she always wished for something more traditional. That's why the chopsticks mean so much to her. Smiling, she promises to take good care of them, and thanks him again. Asahi feels flustered, but manages to say he's glad she likes them. Hinako moves closer, lightly nudging her arm against his and resting her head on his shoulder. With her eyes closed, she comments on how warm he is and how easily he made a place for her here, almost like he invited her to stay. Still struggling to respond, Asahi stays quiet as she continues, saying that it feels like they're family. Holding the chopsticks, she looks up at him and leans closer, pressing against his shoulder. Softly, she asks if he's okay with them being just family, placing her hand over his racing heart. Asahi stutters Hinako's name, completely caught off guard by how close she is. Suddenly, Hinako snaps back to reality and quickly pushes him away when they both hear a noise. They turn toward the doorway and see Tsuko standing there, soaked from the rain. She scolds them sharply, telling them to keep it down. Tsuko explains that she got a ride home from the assistant professor and immediately demands food from Asahi. Hinako rushes over to grab a towel and hands it to her. Sitting at the dining table, Tsuko teasingly comments that Asahi stayed home today and says he owes her one. Asahi is still frozen in shock while Hinako fusses over Tsuko. Tsuko casually suggests that they should all go to a hot spring next year. Hinako lights up with excitement at the idea. Watching them, Asahi sighs to himself, realizing he will never win against Tsuko. The scene shifts to Hinako's birthday. Tsuko and Asahi sit beside her as a cake is placed on the table. They urge her to blow out the candles. Hinako grins at Tsuko, who asks what she's smiling about. Hinako teases that she's older now, even if only by a few months, and demands Tsuko show her respect. Tsuko pretends to think about it, then congratulates her in an overly formal tone, calling her Your Grace. Hinako immediately calls her shameless. Asahi joins in, asking Hinako whether she prefers coffee or black tea, and addressing her as Lady Hinako. She laughs and replies that having a butler isn't so bad. Tsuko then casually brings up a guy from Hinako's part-time job, instantly catching Asahi's attention. She explains that the senpai gave Hinako designer clothes, even though they aren't dating, and keeps asking her out for drinks. Hinako panics and grabs Tsuko's shoulder, clearly trying to stop her from talking in front of Asahi. Ignoring the warning, Tsuko asks if Hinako ever went out with the guy. Hinako glances nervously at Asahi and says she didn't, but that the guy is still messaging her nonstop. Asahi calmly says she should tell him to stop if he's bothering her. Hinako is shocked by how calm he sounds. Flustered, she excuses herself to the restroom, stomping her foot as she leaves. After she's gone, Tsuko asks Asahi if he has anything to say about a guy trying to pursue Hinako. Asahi replies lightly that it's not worth getting worked up over something that happens all the time. When Hinako returns, Tsuko tells her she needs to be clear with the guy to avoid misunderstanding. She jokingly suggests Hinako should firmly tell him she won't share a drink with him, like something a mafia boss would say. Laughing, Tsuko tells them they worry too much and that everything is fine. Asahi is surprised by how cheerful she suddenly sounds. At the cafe where Hinako works part-time, the guy approaches her, asking why she's been ignoring his messages and suggesting they celebrate her birthday with a drink. Hinako remembers Tsuko's advice but can't bring herself to say it. Instead, she turns and runs away. The guy reaches out to stop her, but she suddenly hears someone call her name. Turning around, she sees Asahi sitting there with a cup of coffee. Both Hinako and the guy are stunned. Asahi tells Hinako to walk home with him. As they leave, Hinako asks if he really came all that way just to see her. Asahi shrugs and says he just wanted some cafe au lait, joking that he might be addicted. As they walk, he brings up the face she made earlier and tells her that whenever she says she's fine, he knows she actually isn't. The scene moves to Hinako's university classroom. The lecture ends, and everyone cheers as summer vacation begins. Hinako, however, slumps over her desk with a worn-out expression. Her friend pokes her and asks if she's awake. Hinako, teary-eyed, says she wants to see Asahi but can't because Tsuko told her she isn't allowed to meet him until exams are over. She also complains about upcoming tests. Her friend laughs and says she hasn't seen Asahi lately, warning her she'll fall behind if she talks to him all day. She jokes about how strict Tsuko is. More friends join in, talking about going to the beach and mentioning a popular seaside shop they saw online. They start discussing swimsuits and wondering if last year's still fit. Some guys overhear the swimsuit talk and approach, asking if they can come to the beach too. Two girls are shocked, but Hinako's friend instantly agrees. The others glare at her, asking why she said yes to strangers. Calmly, she explains that Hano-kun, the hottest guy in their department, is with them, along with Nagasahima, and says they can't miss this chance. The group gets excited, talking about fireworks and urging everyone to come. One of the guys asks when they're free, directing the question to Kaken. Just then, Hinako receives messages from Asahi congratulating her on finishing exams and inviting her to an after-exam get-together. Her mood instantly lifts. Without warning, she announces she's going home. Everyone stares in shock and tries to stop her, but Hinako rushes off, eager to see Asahi. When Hinako gets home, she rushes straight to the kitchen, where Asahi is cooking, and eagerly offers to help. He tells her to set the table instead, and she happily agrees, starting to place the plates one by one. As she reaches for the chopsticks Asahi gave her, she pauses and smiles, a soft blush spreading across her face. Suddenly, Tsuko appears behind her and teases her about her happy expression, startling Hinako. Hinako explains that the chopsticks were a gift, and of course she would be happy no matter who gave them to her. Tsuko responds with fake annoyance, saying she already knows that. Hinako then reassures Tsuko that she's just as happy with her gift too, pointing to the earrings and saying she's been taking good care of them. She giggles when she realizes that both gifts, the chopsticks from Asahi and the earrings from Tsuko, have sunflower designs on them. She comments that it's funny they both chose the same design, proof that they really are siblings. Tsuko looks surprised and says Hinako's taste is easy to guess. Hinako laughs at that. Just then, Asahi walks in, carrying a tray of food, ready to serve dinner. As they sit down to eat, Hinako pulls out a bottle of wine and begins pouring it. When asked about it, she explains that a friend gave it to her as a birthday gift. It's peach-flavored and lightly fizzy. Tsuko comments that she doesn't like sweet drinks with meals, making Hinako cry out in frustration when she realizes she forgot Tsuko's preference. After dinner, Hinako relaxes on the couch, while Asahi cleans up in the kitchen. Deciding she'll just drink water instead, she asks Asahi to boil water for tea. Meanwhile, Tsuko asks Hinako about her summer plans. Hinako's eyes light up as she excitedly suggests going to the beach, a festival, or even taking a trip somewhere. In response, Asahi and Tsuko exchange a silent glance before explaining they both have work and summer school commitments. Hearing this, Hinako slumps onto the couch and starts crying, complaining about how cruel they are for being busy during summer vacation. Asahi immediately rushes over, worried, and Tsuko follows. Tsuko notices the wine bottle and realizes it contains alcohol. She remarks that Hinako must not have noticed and says it makes sense for a 20th birthday gift. She adds that it's lucky Asahi didn't drink any. After asking Asahi what to do, Tsuko selfishly leaves him alone with Hinako, saying she's going to take a bath. Feeling abandoned, Hinako sobs about being the only one who wants to spend time together. Asahi sits beside her, trying to calm her down. He explains that summer school won't take up his entire vacation, and that Tsuko said she could adjust her shifts next month. Hinako peeks up at him and shyly asks if he wants to go to the beach with her, then quietly adds if he wants to see her in a swimsuit. Asahi freezes, staring at her in shock. He realizes that yes, he does want to go with her, and yes, he wants to see her, but he panics, worrying that saying "ye" will make him sound like a pervert. His silence makes Hinako look at him expectantly. Suddenly, Asahi blurts out advice about preparing properly for sunburns. At that moment, Tsuko calls from the bathroom, asking where the sponge she bought is. Asahi flinches and rushes off to get it. Left alone, Hinako sadly wonders if that means he doesn't want to see her at all. Meanwhile, Asahi kneels on the floor in embarrassment, realizing he completely messed up and feeling frustrated with himself. The scene shifts to Hinako shopping. As she looks at different clothes, her thoughts drift to Asahi. She picks out 2 cute outfits and heads to the fitting room. While changing, she imagines being at the beach with him, a shy smile spreading across her face. At the same time, Asahi arrives at his school's summer camp and is surprised to see Utsugi there. She rushes over excitedly, asking about Tsuko and how Asahi is doing. Asahi recalls that it isn't polite to call a girl by her first name right away, and instead asks about her tutoring. Utsugi sadly explains that it only lasted 2 weeks. She wanted it to continue, but Tsuko started working at a cram school instead. She adds that she wishes she were still in middle school. Asahi listens and nods. Utsugi continues, saying she thought it was fate when her father got transferred and ended up teaching at Tsuko's workplace while she was still enrolled at school. Asahi is surprised and asks if she's still a student. She explains that it's a combined middle and high school and that she enrolled last year. She recalls being scolded by a teacher for wearing makeup, being told that school isn't a place to be fashionable and that she should focus on getting into university. Remembering it still makes her sad. She explains that she didn't wear makeup to be trendy. She was afraid of being called ugly or embarrassing to others. As she walks down the hallway, lost in thought, she hears someone call her name. She turns to see Tsuko standing there. Utsugi notices how beautiful Tsuko looks even out of uniform and wonders if she's already graduated. Tsuko mentions she overheard Utsugi earlier and noticed how angry she was. Utsugi admits it. Tsuko then casually advises her that if she's going to wear makeup, she should avoid glitter because it's too obvious. She suggests brown eyeliner, tinted lip balm, eyelash glue, and even an eyelash perm. Utsugi listens in surprise, then asks sadly if Tsuko is angry too. Tsuko laughs lightly and says there's no reason to be upset. She comments that many girls wear makeup at school and smiles, saying she appreciates the effort they put into their appearance every day. Utsugi stares at Tsuko with wide eyes, feeling surprised and encouraged for the first time in a while.